Welcome to another episode of Hat Collecting, the multi-passionate experience. This one's a little bit late, but this was a part of a July special series, Disability Pride Month, that I'm interviewing a series of fellow disabled friends and peers. I am your host, Lacey Artemis. My pronouns are she and they. I am a white, early 40s, feminine presenting person with long brown hair, currently wearing a black top and black headphones. And I will pass to my guest to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Casey. My pronouns are she, they. I am a white lady in her late 20s. I have short brown hair that is very curly today. With some flower clips in my hair, I am wearing a green cardigan and a yellow floral dress.
Yeah, I noticed that we're cardigan buddies today, which is unusual because it's summertime and it's normally pretty hot. But between my mild illness and the fact that it was like much hotter yesterday, I actually had to bundle up a little bit, which is kind of weird. But yeah, so how about let's get started. I'll just have you briefly sort of say like what you do and kind of how you got into it.
So I have an online business. I started out in the Instagram business space in late 2021. Um, my story is actually very closely tied to my disabilities because I graduated in 2020 during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, which, as a disabled high risk person, not an ideal situation. So, what kind of happened was after a few months of just not having a great time mentally and emotionally, I decided I would give online business a try. I had a unpaid internship, quote unquote, for a friend of a friend um, on their Instagram, and eventually I thought I could get paid to do this, probably. And I made a professional Instagram account in late 2021, and I started virtual assisting, which eventually led to me becoming a consultant strategist almost exclusively, actually, for other neurodivergent and disabled and chronically ill business owners.
Yeah, very cool. And that's how I don't remember who originally referred me to you, but somebody pointed me in your direction, and I love the idea of what you do. And so I'm happy to have you here to tell your story and to talk about that. So the first question we will get into here. I know you have a few different things going on with your health, so whichever of them you are comfortable talking about, which or what disability or disabilities plural do you personally experience that you would like to talk about today?
So I think the ones most related to and integrated with question mark my business are my neurodivergence. There are various diagnosed and undiagnosed conditions under there, some of which I'm very much still like learning about and exploring today. And my chronic pain and fatigue, which are secondary to some rare neurological and musculoskeletal conditions I have. I'm not going to name those today because I don't really want to pull up a picture of the human spine and try to explain. So, yeah, chronic pain and fatigue, I think, are two of the really, really big ones for me that just kind of affect everything. I was born with my conditions, so I don't know like what it feels like to not have those. And so I really consider like my entire life, my entire lived experience, everything I say or do ever really is touched by being a neurodivergent person with chronic pain and fatigue.
Mhm. Well, something that you mentioned there is interesting to me, that you said that you were born with these conditions, so you've never known a life without them. And that got me thinking to how a lot of people do have a hard time conceptualizing what chronic pain and chronic fatigue is like if they've never experienced it. And the fact that I'm mildly sick right now made me think of like, okay, so everybody's been sick at one point or another, and like you're not necessarily going to be in pain. You might be, if throat
Mm-hmm.
is like raw or something, or you have a migraine or headache or something. But on the chronic fatigue side of things, if you imagine just kind of having like a mild illness all the time, I don't know anybody who likes being sick. I sure don't. So like, I'm
Me
glad that
neither.
yeah, so like I'm glad I don't have to be and feel like this all the time. But unfortunately, some people kind of do. So that's that's unfortunate, and they still have to
Yeah.
find the like the energy and the resources and the motivation maybe to still do what needs to be done in terms of like taking care of themselves and living their life and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's a mind bender to think about it. Even me, I'm just like, oh, I don't feel like I want to go down that rabbit hole today, because it's like the closest thing really most people can relate to is like acute illness. But when you don't know what not having that feels like, it is like, oh, how do I even begin to try to explain this to people? Which is why I think like the online disability community has always been that sort of home for me, because I don't really know anyone IRL, quote unquote, and definitely didn't as a kid, who experiences the things I experience. And then being able to go online and it's like, oh, you get it. I don't have to try to explain it to you.
Yeah, I'm a member of a few different online communities that it's kind of like that. It's just nice to have somewhere to go that people get it, because it can be exhausting on top of everything else to have to try to explain
Yes.
things to people. Um, yeah, I was had a thought a moment ago and it's gone, so I'm just gonna continue. Um, so this keeps happening. I have these questions, and like in answering the first one, the second one inevitably gets answered to a degree, but we'll do it anyways. How does your disability impact, influence, or inspire the work that you do? In terms of, do you do advocacy, or are you just a disabled person just living your life? And if you do advocacy, what forms of it do you do?
So this is a question I'm still very much like asking myself as a disabled person with a presence in the online space. And I do think having a presence and an audience, even if it's like a teeny tiny audience, there is, I think there is at least a little bit of, I don't even want to say responsibility, but like there is an educator role in that. And so I'm like still constantly asking myself, like, am I an advocate? Do I want to be an advocate? But I think that being just very loudly disabled and talking about disability and what it's like is kind of how I am doing advocacy right now, at least. Um, I said that my business basically started out of being disabled and knowing, okay, I'm high risk. I have these physical limitations, these energy limitations that make an in person job, let alone a full time or even a part time job, out of the question right now. I really felt like I had no choice. It was try to make money online or question mark. Um, but even that, thinking, okay, this is probably the best thing for me, at least right now, I still ran into so much of having to learn how to actually work with my body mind instead of just constantly overriding it, especially in the online space where everything is, not everything, but there is still a lot of like hustle culture, especially in the American online business space. And so it came out of being in that where I learned not only that I had to like hard pivot away from that, but also that I wanted to low key educate and inspire other business owners who may be also very loudly, proudly disabled, or maybe they're still like early in their journey and are just trying to like get through it. I just wanted to show other disabled business owners that it's actually okay and also possible to, like I say a lot, do things differently. You know, opting out of hustle culture, opting out of this FOMO and shame based marketing that we tend to see a lot, especially on Instagram, and being really intentional, like slow and incorporating rest into your business strategies and being inconsistent. Consistency is such a buzzword in the online business space, and it's like a word that gets me on edge still, but inconsistency is just part of the reality of our existence as disabled, chronically ill, neurodivergent business owners. And so I think that I try to do like itty bitty bits of micro advocacy in just showing that and the reality of that and the struggle of that, because it's not easy at all, you know, and just showing the realness as well as the possibilities.
Yeah, I also relate to that with my neurodivergence because I never disclosed in any of my like corporate jobs. I had to mask a lot. It was really draining. And I got out of my last job. I went on medical leave and I said to myself, is like, I don't want to go back to that. I know that it's just like it takes so much out of me and it doesn't leave me enough to do the things that I want to do and
Yeah.
to make my life meaningful in the way that I want it to be. So I just had to go all in. And it's kind of funny to me now because I started by being like, I want to make events that are more sensory friendly. And then that has led into more advocacy. And then like it's kind of just snowballing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of laughing now that I'm like, oh wow. So like I'm actually now making a business out of being like very loud and out and proud of like not necessarily proud, but just whatever. I am neurodivergent, and I'm putting that like front and center now, and making that my like primary thrust,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh, awesome! Like not only do I not have to hide this anymore, but I get to like it like now. Obviously, if I'm being really open and upfront about these struggles, then I'm not going to have to feel as like awkward or in difficult or inconvenient to be asking for different like accommodations or that sort of thing. And so I'm honored, and I feel like I'm honored that I get to like turn my disability into kind of a business, like you said, and like do my thing, but also help other people in the process. That's really cool.
Yeah. It's like, side note, so much privilege for me at least. So much privilege in being able to do it too. Because like it's hard and some months I don't make a lot of money because I have no spoons. But so there is like a lot of privilege in being able to do the work and not do the work when I can't do the work and still have the platform and the audience and all of these things. And I think I try to like show that as well too, because it's very much like a balancing act. And I feel like being able to talk about it, all of it, is part of like what makes the work important and hopefully good, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah. So the next question on the formal list here is, what accommodations related to your disability or disabilities should people be aware of? If you haven't already answered that.
Yeah, so I think this, going back to the chronic pain and fatigue at least, um, I'm lucky that I can do a lot of self accommodation because that right at very much right now in my stage of like life and business is what I need. For me, these accommodations look like flexible work hours and deadlines, limiting my like focused work hours, and being able to take sometimes a lot of rest breaks, sometimes long rest breaks. Um, Being able to move around when needed or lie down when needed as well throughout my workday. These are really important accommodations for me, and also being able to do that without judgment. Because I think, especially for those of us who are like neurodivergent, and not necessarily, but like I think it's an addition, when we have neurodivergent brains in addition to chronically ill and disabled bodies, that fear of being judged for these things like adds a whole nother level to like the stress and difficulty of trying to accommodate for ourselves or ask for accommodations when we have to. Um, so I
Yeah.
think those are a couple of big ones. Also, communication is kind of ironically like a struggle for me. Like in my brain, I'm very much an overthinker and I overthink specifically about communication. My business is a lot about like communicating with each other online. So it's a little funny, but I do stress about it. And so sometimes I really, really need like written asynchronous communication so I can like take time to respond, especially like if I'm having a bad fatigue day, a bad brain fog day, if just like I'm getting decision fatigued. Because especially as a business owner, you're making decisions all the time. And so sometimes I just need time. If I don't respond right away, it's not because I don't care, it's because I care a lot. But I need to take a beat. And I think, especially in the online space, you've probably seen a post saying somewhere saying that like you need to respond to messages like right away or within 24 hours because oh, what if you lose a high ticket client or something? But that time is necessary for some of us, for a lot of us, at some point at least, I think. Um, so yeah, I think those are the big ones.
Yeah, I like what you said about the being able to take the rest breaks or take the kind of self accommodations without feeling guilty, because I know that that was many of us who were kind of indoctrinated into capitalism right from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
and never really had a choice. And as I got further and further into my career and I kept struggling and struggling kind of more and more, and like when I had opportunities to like spend more of my time the way that I wanted and break it up how I wanted, it's like, oh, I'm functioning so much better in this case. And then I go back to being forced into somebody else's structure and I struggle a lot more, and kind of going out on my own. And I just actually put an Instagram story out before this because it's like, I haven't been sick in a little while. And I was like, even though I don't feel the best,
Mm-hmm.
like if I had to go into an office like this and like deal like me, I do like spreadsheets when they're my spreadsheets, but when I'm doing somebody else's spreadsheets, and like just having to like force myself to like focus what I just my brain doesn't want to,
Mm-hmm.
that was misery and I always hated it. And now it's like, well, I can rest if I want to, but also like I'm so enthusiastic and passionate about the work that I'm doing that like I'll come to the computer and I'll still be like, my throat will hurt and I'll be coughing, I'll be sipping my tea, and I'm like, but I love what I'm doing. And like that's the difference with the jobs that you have to do versus the jobs that you choose to do. So
Yeah.
and I think you are one of many people I've seen say that neurodivergent people often do have to become entrepreneurs because it's like the only way that we can actually succeed and thrive.
Yeah. I don't subscribe to the belief that it is the correct way for every neurodivergent person, because there are so many different types of neurodivergence.
Mm-hmm.
And heck, even to ADHD brains can require completely different things to accommodate themselves. But for me, at least, I do think that it was my best option at the time and still is. And that might change in the future, and that's totally okay. But for
Mm-hmm.
now, it's what I got.
Yeah. The next question here, what discrimination and or microaggressions do you experience most often due to your disability? And would you say it's more words or actions or both?
So, truthfully, I have not, to my knowledge slash memory, experienced like a lot of what I would consider discrimination or microaggressions in day-to-day life. The ones that do immediately come to mind are, unfortunately, like a lot of interactions in medical spaces, like hospitals with new doctors and new nurses, especially like if they're new people and if it's a new space and we haven't seen each other before. Um, so I really try to, like, when I find a team that I like, stick to them. I don't want to leave them ever because I don't want to have to like re-explain things. But there's some stuff that I have noticed, like nurses or doctors just kind of sitting there making me a little uncomfortable because I'm taking like a long time to fill out a form. Sometimes it's due to brain fog. Sometimes it's just due to my hands hurt because my hands hurt sometimes. And sometimes there's a lot of forms to fill out. Um, I also have, in addition to brain fog, I have what they call white coat syndrome. I don't like doctors, they kind of freak me out. And so sometimes it just takes me a long time or a few tries to like understand and respond to questions. And sometimes that can be frustrating for doctors and nurses. Like, I get that they probably have to do a lot of these every day. So, yeah, valid frustration, but also being on the receiving end of that still sucks because it's just like, this is just how my body and my brain are, and they're also what I'm literally here to see you about, you know? So, like, can I have a minute? um, and in addition to that, I think the other big area where I've started noticing things is I started using a cane like less than a year ago. Um, and I've started noticing being perceived and treated differently for that sometimes. Like, I know that I get looks sometimes when I'm out with it. I don't really know the thoughts or feelings behind the looks, but I just know they're looks. And they're weird and it's not fun. And I have on occasion like been asked questions like, what happened? Um, and I still don't know how to answer that, which feels awkward because nothing happened. I just have started accommodating myself in a way that, to be honest, I probably should have started a really long time ago. So
Can I offer a
nothing happened.
suggestion? The next time
Yeah, you
somebody
can make
asks you
suggestions.
the next time somebody asks you that, you could just be like, My body broke. What you gonna do?
My body broke. You know what? Yeah. That
My
works.
body malfunctioned. What are we gonna do?
Body had an error 404.
Mm,
I
yes.
like
If error 404, stability not found.
it. Oh gosh, that would be amazing on a t-shirt.
You're welcome to have it.
We should make merch. Awesome.
Yeah, make it like a silhouette of a person with a cane and it's error 404, stability not found.
uh, yeah, but
Um,
so I think that's one, but also like an often follow up to that is I don't know if this counts as discrimination or microaggression actually, but I'm gonna say it because it's what popped in my brain is like when people say I hope you get better soon, and that's always just I don't know what to say about that one because I was born with all of my conditions and they are chronic conditions, which by definition means that I'm gonna have them probably forever and they might like fluctuate and get better on the upper end of a fluctuation. But I don't that's not the same thing and
so what I noticed with that, and this might be like I'm just noticed because you said you're relaying that they said that they hope that you get better as opposed to you feel better, and my brain was kind of processing that and being like, maybe they meant to say I hope you feel better, but maybe they didn't, because I know ableism often people are like, oh no, you're sick, you're disabled, like I wish that you didn't have to be that way, because like they feel bad for you. But I think it's reasonable to say to somebody like a cane, or if they look like they're, I hope you feel better, because that's, applicable to anybody. So for anybody listening, I guess that's more a suggestion for you, like to just be mindful of the words that you use, because one little word choice there makes a difference in how it can land.
I like that suggestion a lot because I'm like a stickler for words too. I'm an overthinker. They stick in my brain. This is what happens. But that like that you're right that is a meaningful little shift. Um, yeah, I like that. I like and I do like the idea of feeling better, and I'm like, yeah, that's a possibility. I could have an okay day tomorrow. Yeah, I hope tomorrow's an okay day, or maybe a good day. That would be cool too. Like, yeah, those little word changes can mean a lot, especially just because, especially for those of us with an online presence, we get a lot of us get these comments a lot. And yeah, so that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious to ask you, sort of on the flip side of that, like, because I know you are very online, but in IRL, in the real world, as you said earlier, what have been some of your like most positive experience? Like, are there any particular like places or people or situations that you've found maybe consistently have pleasantly surprised you?
So so I actually like graduated quote unquote from physical therapy yesterday from vestibular physical therapy. It sucks, but it was worth it. And we had a conversation like this because I have recently realized that sounds silly, but some of you will get it, I'm sure. If I actually like ask for help to like my friends and my family who already probably like me, and I don't really need to be as nervous about asking as I am. If I ask them for help, the vast majority of the time, they're not gonna like shame me for it or be mean to me about it or make me feel guilty or like because they're my friends and family. So it's okay to just ask for help. And it sounds so silly, but it really is something that like I am just realizing after 27 years of living with my conditions. And it's been wild to start being able to think like that. And so that has been like a really, really positive and rewarding experience. Like, if we're having our friends over for like a dinner date, because we have a couple of friends who we've been switching off every week making dinner for each other, which has been so fun. And I can just be like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about them thinking I look drunk because I can't walk in a straight line. They they know me and they know this is how I am. And not only are they not going to judge me for it, they're going to keep an eye on me to make sure I don't fall flat on my face, which is really nice. So yeah, these are such new revelations for me. Um, but I'm also trying to like get in the habit of talking about them too, so that later, when I like am having another bad day and feeling like, oh, I can't tell anyone anything, I can just like listen to this podcast episode or check my threads and be like, hey, Casey, look, evidence that people aren't as bad as your brain tells you they are.
Yeah, actually, on that note, I started doing this a number of years ago. I've talked about this on past episodes of this show, that we're often thinking about how much we appreciate the people in our lives or our friends. We think their art is cool, or we're admire the things that they do, but we don't explicitly tell them. And I know for me, whenever I get one of those, like they explicitly say it in a message or in a voice, like in person or whatever, that really means so much. And when it's usually digital now, because the way the world is, we're mostly chatting through various apps and platforms and things, but I'll take screenshots of them, and I have a folder that I've saved them in. And same kind of idea, that whenever, like, I used to really struggle with this a lot more, and I would have to go in there and like look and be like, people have been noticing. They may not always say it, but they are noticing. And now with me breaking out on my own and starting my own kind of business, and getting into the space that I'm getting into, um, it's like now I have to kind of be more intentional about collecting testimonials. But
Mm-hmm.
it's still like when you said the friends and family, like that was a thing. I struggled even at like family get-togethers, because I would get like overstimulated sometimes, and I would feel like, well, it would be rude for me to like go to another room by myself and like ignore everybody. But my mom understood why I would need to do that, and so it's like, go ahead. Like, I understand. I could tell, like, go take 5, take 10 minutes, come back when you're ready. Like, it's fine. And that uh, that just means a lot, because otherwise it's kind of like being in the office job, where it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to take the space and the time and the quiet that I need when I need it. So yeah. Yeah, so I guess, is there anything else that you want to say about the work that you do? Like, have you had like a favorite client or a favorite thing that you've worked on recently? Whatever details you can kind of give with that. Like, what's been a moment with the work that you do in the last, like, maybe 6 months, that you've just been like, heck yeah, I did that, or I got to do that, or something?
Yeah, so recently I had a client who really wanted to work with other non-binary autistic individuals. They have this like coaching program, but it's not like lots of video calls and stuff. It's like very like asynchronous, low pressure coaching, but also like a lot of my clients really, really work on having accessibly priced options too, which means so much to me because like a lot of us disabled folks don't have a ton of spending money. And so having those lower price point options too is, I just love so much, especially for like people who are coaches and mentors, because I'm very much a person who needs like somebody to hold my hand through things. And I just mean that, like, I need a gentle guiding presence to be reassuring to me in order to get me to do things. Even if I already want to do them, I still need that. And so, like, I have so much admiration for like coaches and mentors who do that sort of work. And yeah, I find that really fulfilling. I love working with people who do one-to-one sort of work as opposed to one-to-many. I love a group program. I have participated in many, but I think a lot of my clients as well are the type of people who benefit most, who learn better, who feel more confident and more supported and less overwhelmed and overstimulated in one-to-one work as opposed to like being in a group coaching thing or a course that like a lot of other people are in. Like I was in a Discord server with like 100 other students for a course, and I loved the course, but I never ever checked the Discord server because I was like, oh, there are 100 people in here. So yeah, that's I love working with coaches, looking for clients for one-on-one work, especially for like relationships that aren't just like the, I guess, stereotypical client and provider relationship, service provider, not like therapist, where it can feel like there are these sorts of boundaries where you have to be like very business. Like they're not your friends, they're paying you money, you exchange your services, and that's it. But like, I want to be friends with my clients. I want to have like non-business relationships with my clients and people in other elements of my business ecosystem and the online space. And I like being friends with people. And a lot of my clients do too. And these are the kind of like relationships I work on sort of like encouraging in my work. Like people who want to have relationships with other people and not just get clients. If that, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's one of the things that I've loved about I'm a member of, or like kind of connected to, a number of women and non-binary entrepreneurs support communities, and that's been a game changer. And like several of them, like yeah, it's more like kind of like a family, or like, you know, a group of friends that we're all actually trying to help each other, and as opposed to just trying to sell to each other. And
Yeah.
like I love that, because like kind of everywhere else in the world, it does feel like everyone's always trying to sell to you. And you know, to be in a group where it's like, oh, you know, can you give me like feedback on my thing, or do you know anybody that could, you know, benefit from these like services or whatever. And it's like a circular economy. And that's just, yeah, it makes a big difference. And being able to find, again, it's the people that get it, and that are like, you
Yeah.
know, similarly passionate about trying to do something good, as opposed to just, you know, keeping the corporate cogs turning.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, is there anything else? Do you have any closing thoughts, or anything else you'd like to say as we wrap up here?
Yeah. A side note, just in case anyone thinks it's weird that I mentioned that a few of my clients have been autistic, I am like 99% sure I'm autistic, and it's like been the worst thing with my brain telling me like 50 bajillion reasons why I can't. Meanwhile, like so many, like almost all my audience is neurodivergent, and the same thing happened like before I self-diagnosed as ADHD, where they were like, you know, Casey, we talk a lot. Have you ever considered? So I'm like, that's something I'm still working with though right now. Is like I struggle to self diagnose. That's like that, and that's such a hard thing to do in the online space because I feel like there can also be that pressure to like you have to know and you have to pick. And I'm just like I'm very much always in the process of like reconsidering everything as I learn everything. It's happened with some of my physical disabilities too, where like we were certain it's one thing, and then I talk to people and I'm like, oh, this is a whole thing I've never considered, but actually makes so much sense. And so like, just so y'all know that I'm not like, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a coach. I'm a neurodivergent human who is still not entirely sure what that means, trying to figure it out on the internet. This is not professional medical advice here. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my babble.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, if it
You can
makes you
cut
feel
that if
better,
it's
it's okay. For what it's worth, I am not formally, diagnosed with the ADHD, but like absolutely 99.99999% it's there. It's a thing. Um, Anyone that like looks at my sort of history of all the million different projects and things I've done, it's like maybe not textbooks. I don't have. It's actually. I won't go too far with. I don't want to like um, go on too much of a tangent here, but it has been interesting to me because like I know that neurodivergence manifests differently in everybody. So there's like, literally a billion different possible ways of like, combinations of like traits and such.
yeah,
But um, I've found it really kind of interesting that a lot of the like most common ADHD struggles don't seem to affect me, but I do still have like time blindness and object permanence issues and forgetfulness and distractibility, um, and like it's just been kind of funny to me, like even with that, even with like a lot of the this like because I'm not I'm like sort of chronically early or on time, which is very uncommon for ADHD people. I think that's the autism. But like yeah, because I've made the sort of joke that I feel like my autism is the designated driver of the pair, because it seems to be more dominant. It seems to kind of keep me from going completely off the rails a lot of the time, whereas a lot of the other ADHD people that I know seem to be more ADHD dominant, and that causes them a lot of problems. So this is interesting to me that I seem to be a bit of an outlier in that sense, but.
yeah.
Um,
Brains are so unique, and there are so many different possible variations for a brain to be. And it's like so cool that we have like that community element of we know our brains are just weird, but
mhm.
also like yeah, that analogy about the autism being the designate, that's an amazing analogy.
Mm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today to talk disability, talk neurodivergence, talk other stuff. Well, entrepreneurship, that's another big one. And yeah, people can find you online at Casey Connects. That is CASEYCONNECTS. That will be in the show notes. It's your Spoon Savvy leads page specifically is heyitscasey.com/savvy. And I am at Lacey Artemis and laceyartemis.com. You can find this show on YouTube at Hat Collecting and on all the major podcasting platforms. Tongue twister there. And yes, the show will be continuing on into August and beyond. Disability Pride Month is. Oh yeah. Also, thank you for being part of this series and for being the conclusion of the series for this year. And I had fun with this. It was a lot. I made a lot of extra work for myself, but I'm glad that I did it because I really liked some of the conversations that happened. So in future months, time, energy, resources willing, I'm interested to explore doing special series around other topics as well. But thank you for being here. Thank you to my audience for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time on Hat Collecting.
Bye.